policies. I know it was one policy that I asked for us to look into, policy 5131, point two, I believe.
You're
The
just
bully-
showing off now.
It's the bullying policy. You know that with the state, doing some tweaks to the bullying policy, I think we also need to do some tweaks to the bullying policy because talking to other parents and other community people who children have been sent to the crisis center, and most of these children are being sent to the crisis center because of bullying. So because of the bullying, they are having suicide thoughts. So we need to have a process that also contains to giving service to the bully as well, because they need to know that their bullying can hurt individuals mentally. So I think that we need to tweak our bullying policy, and as the weeks go on, I will be emailing about other policies if I see fit as well.
Right, and I think there will be tweaks to the bullying policy that come through as a result of the changes in the law. And we can talk about, I think, some of the tweaks that you're talking about and some of the process that you're talking about may not belong in a policy. It may belong more in a manual that the district or the Office of Academic Services or the Health Services use to deal with children.
Yeah, because I know our policy is the child is suspended, but that don't really do nothing. The child's suspended, but they come back the next day and they bully another kid. So I think that, and then we have a new policy that a child can only be suspended twice, so that don't help at all. So that's something we need to look into with with our social support for the bully and also the victim.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So those are those are excellent points. Very well taken. I think it'd be great if Mr. Lewis, I don't know if that's a curriculum issue to work with Ms. White, Chair of Curriculum, but I think, Mr. Lewis, if you could take the lead on behalf of the board and work with the appropriate committee and with the appropriate folks from the district, academic services, whatever departments are appropriate to make tweaks to the policy and propose changes that we can vote on. I think that'd be tremendous. Well, first we have to get the programmatic pieces in terms of what should the policy be. When do you suspend? When do you not suspend? Should there be graduated steps before you suspend? So once you kind of work through that programmatic stuff, then absolutely we got to run it through legal to make sure that what we're doing is compliant with the law too. So thank you, Ms. Lewis. Any other questions about the CUSAC amended board policy second and final reading? Do I have a motion to accept? First, second, all in favor? Is anyone opposed? Is any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. We will now move to the public participation. I'm sorry, Vice Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry, but if I may, I just want to go back to what our student representative, Celia. One, I want to thank you for raising the point for January the 15th at the 13th, I should know. January the 13th at the Student Center. I also want to take the opportunity at this time, because the next time we meet will be in another year, to thank Mr. Leone and his staff, Kwesi Rivera, and the committee for this trip to Ghana. I would really be remiss if I didn't say anything and took it lightly, that our purpose is to take 30 students to Ghana, but all are welcome. It's a culture, student, and many things exchange program that what it actually does is, next to books, it's learning, and that's our whole purpose. But it also dispels the negative myths about Africa. And with our students, we need to show positive images and let children, our students, meet other students across the water who may not have as much as we have, and the things that they're doing, and they can learn and we can learn. It's for both sides. So we also want everyone, if you do not plan on going on a trip, at least come to the Student Center on the 13th, where there will be a presentation to talk about what this program is all about, and not just this year, but we hope to continue, that it not only help our students, our teachers, our community, to learn more. Once again, to take away the negative myths that we may see or hear about on TV, and to take away some false superiority. It's not just for African American students, it's for all students. It's for everyone. It's something that I think that anyone, and I know because I've been on these trips before with students, it's something that I believe everyone will say it is one of the best trips, educational, entertaining, that they have ever been on. So I just want you to keep that in mind. January the 13th, please come out to the Student Center. That's 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. And like I said, I would really be remiss if I didn't mention the hard work through Mr. Leone and Ms. Revere that they have been doing to put this together. It's a collaboration with the school district and different organizations. So just keep that in mind, and we'll be bringing you more information about it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. We'll move to public participation, part of our agenda.
Yes, this is the public participation portion of the agenda. We welcome you. It's an opportunity for the public to speak and share interests of public and common concern. We have changed the time frames a little bit, as you may recall from last month. At this point, anybody who wishes to speak may come to the podium, give us your name and address, and everybody gets 3 minutes to speak. We again ask folks, remind folks about the importance of decorum when they speak and when they stay in the audience, that we need to maintain a respectful presence in this room for those who are speaking, and to allow the board to hear and appreciate the remarks of the public. Okay.
And I want to emphasize too, just to make sure everything was clear in terms of the changes the board made. The board did not reduce by 1 second the amount of time the public has to participate in these meetings. The policy, the pre-existing policy provided for 90 minutes of public participation. We didn't change that at all. That's exactly what it is. And we also have the ability for the chair to extend that by 15 minutes. And then we have an ability for the board to extend beyond that if there's some sort of issue of significant importance that a lot of people want to talk about. So that's 105 minutes. And then the board always has the opportunity to extend beyond that. So I just want to make sure that there wasn't anything about my communication that was unclear, or any of our communication in that regard. So the only thing we did change was we moved from the 5 minutes for organizational speakers to 3 minutes from everyone, because we had heard from many members in the community that they felt more people should have an opportunity to speak. But I believe we're all open. I mean, this time is the people's time, right? The public participation is the people's time. I believe we're all open. If there's some broad consensus in the community where if multiple people have the same issue to talk about, it becomes very inefficient to have one person after another speaking, we can always make adjustments in our policies to make sure we're doing the right thing. So in any event, I wanted to make sure people had that context for these changes, but as a general matter, these are the operational rules we want to comply with so that we have a framework within which we do our business. So with that said, we'll move to our first speaker.
No, go on.
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair.
And while the speaker is getting ready to come to the podium, I think it's important to know, once again, that this trip is at no cost to the district. I needed to say that.
Thank you.
Iman Brown.
Next speaker.
Willie Rowe.
Good evening, board chair, board members, and the community.
You want to give us your name and address,
Oh.
just quickly?
Willie Rowe, 107 Ivy Street.
Thank you.
Programs for schools such as inclusion and implementation of individual education plans needs have been affected by budget cuts which curtail our ability to meet the state mandates and district goals. Why have none of the board members showed the courage to challenge the governor's budget cuts and their effect on Newark? Why have only the board members, Lewis and King, been the only board members to support Dr. Janey's reappointment? We in the community want an answer from the board since Dr. Janey has fulfilled his contract conditions. Answer the public's question. This is the same biased manner exercised by Governor Christie when he removed the only competent black Justice John Wallace from the Supreme Court on unfounded allegations without a hearing. In November's board meeting, the chair, Mr. Jeffries, assigned Mr. Lamort the job of data monitoring and to monitor Barringer's High School's crisis. These assignments were given to Lamort after he had missed 5 board meetings or more and residents had complained. What is the board's policy covering absences of board members? Mr. Lamort was not present at the December business meeting. There, Mr. Gold discussed the status of Barringer High School students' graduation and the remedies being used to get these students their appropriate credits. What are you going to do, Chairman, about Mr. Lamore's absence and failure to assist with the Barringer situation as assigned? What is the policy? We watched the board members on stage publicly admonish Dr. Janey for matters incorrectly. Now, what are you going to do about Lamore, Romero, and Spade? In November business meeting, there were agenda items presented to the board that were urgent and necessary to meet the CUSAC requirements of the state. This is necessary so we can get under the state, from under the state's veiled control of our school district. It is legitimate and purposeful for the board to review the documents put before you. It is to the detriment of residents, students, and their families to delay passing the policy submitted to you by the board attorney and the School Board Association. Board members Penter and Lewis questioned the number of RTCs on the organization table assigned to the various regions. Are we delaying the vote to facilitate the state maintaining control of the district under Governor Christie? Do not delay a vote because the North only has 7 RTC and the South 9. It is a work in progress plan that is subject to change as needs determined. Assignments of the staff should be based on need and not an arbitrary number that a board member wants for a region. The assignment of personnel is a managed prerogative of Dr. Janey and should be based on a defined need of the region due to Governor Christie's budget cuts and layoffs. Example, a problem exists at Barringer with student credit history.
Mr. Rowe, did you give your letter to Martha, Mr. Rowe? Because we will respond in writing to every last item you have in that letter. And I have no problem. Publishing that letter. I have no problem us putting that on the website. I have no problem in January with us publicly responding to the very legitimate issues that Mr. Rowe raised. There's a whole series of them, so it's a lot of work we have. But I'd like to make sure Martha has that letter. Martha, do you have that letter? Okay. So we're going to respond in writing to you, Mr. Rowe, on all those issues. So thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Rowe. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. As you know, the board in November, voted on the self-report to initiate the CUSAC process. We're not delaying anything. Part of the reason we put in place the new operational procedures is to set ourselves up for local control. It's on the district's website right now, the board's self-report, and it's very important for the people to know that this board worked very hard going through all of the statutes and all of the rules governing CUSAC. There's a very extensive statute, it's a very extensive regulatory framework, and the reason that self-report came out the way it did, which says that this district is ready for local control, is largely a byproduct of the work of this board. I love you very much, Cassandra. Next speaker, let's order, please order.
Excuse me. Sharon Smith.
Next speaker.
Sharon Smith's not here? Okay.
No.
Johnny Latner.
Next speaker.
Ben Ness-Roper.
I love you, Cassandra.
One of the first things I wanted to ask this board, really not arguing about time, but I'm going to say this in response to the 3 minutes. And I'm going to go like this. My ADA rights, as my brother stated the last advisory board, America's Disability Act, Section 504, means that you must accommodate me as a disabled person. So therefore, since the board is changing their rules, we're going to change the game. I want your agenda enlarged for those who are disabled. Matter of fact, we want them in Braille for those who are blind. We also want buildings and we also want meetings to be held in buildings that are handicap accessible. I don't want to hear anything about grandfathered. It's a federal regulation. The district is supposed to be making sure they take care of those who are disabled. It is time for you guys to start complying to federal and state guidelines. Also, Mr. Roper is supposed to be allotted parking privileges for I can start walking up your alleyways here and with no lighting, then got to go upstairs that don't even have banisters. So first of all, let's start complying to the rules that have been set forth instead of creating a whole new genre. That's one of my first things. In regards to Mr. Lewis, Mr. Lewis, you stated that they fast-track you information. This is how you settle it. Abstain from any votes that doesn't get, any issue that doesn't get to you in a favorable amount of time. Why would you say yes to anything that you haven't read? It doesn't make any sense. And as it relates to bullying, there is, Governor McGreevy signed legislation as it relates to bullying. And I'm ashamed of these people here that you don't even know that there's bullying laws in place to protect children that the district doesn't use. And I will be more than happy to provide this board with copies. Now, further thoughts. And I am asking this board for ADA accommodation, Section 504, to allot me 5 minutes as a visually impaired person, one who cannot read. And I expect you guys to do what you're supposed to do. In regards to Alexander Street School, Alexander Street School needs to be monitored. We have some regulations that we have people who are breaking the law, stealing money. I contacted the BA also in regards to allocations that have been made to Alexander Street School. We're supposed to have a guidance counselor, 7th grade teacher. We're supposed to have a guidance counselor, social worker. We're supposed to have a clerk. We just got 2 custodians just got moved out of the building, and the money was placed in the budget from the state. The money has disappeared. And I've called the BA and asked them to investigate this fully. We also have PTA fraud. $2,600 have disappeared. Staff member removed it. And now the superintendent of the West is going to ride off into the sunset and leave a mess? No. We want total investigation, and I can prove that the money is gone, you guys. And so if the board wants local control, why don't you get into some local schools and begin to start making some changes? So, and I'm going to say this to the general counsel, and I'm finished anyway. This will be a year of hell. Lawsuits will be filed by parents and my family. We will see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Roper. Next speaker, please.
Maureen Robbins.
Maureen Robinson, Elizabeth, New Jersey, building rep, West Side High. I'm just standing tonight. I'm going to pass on my speech, but I just want to know that I had to take the day off today because of the tragedy. That particular kid sat at my desk, and he would have sat there today, fourth block. And I couldn't deal with it, so I stayed home because I knew he wasn't going to be at his desk, and he sat right in front of me, and every time I look up, he was there, so I couldn't make it in today. But in honor of him, we're going to do something special, and our principal is getting things in order for him. He was a good kid as far as I'm concerned, and he had parents who cared about him, mother and father. He was from an intact family. So we're going to pray for him like I do every day anyway before I get to work. You pray for him. And I kept hoping that the night I would wake up from a nightmare and it would all be just that, a nightmare. But it's a reality. He's gone, and he's hushed up in judgment today over something really silly and really foolishness. So we need to get together and try to figure out what are we going to do about the human carnage here in our school district, just with the schools alone. And I want you to know that as a teacher, I don't just teach them. I treat them like they're my own children. That's the way I treat them. If they're hungry, I feed them. And whatever nourishment I can provide for them, I do that. So whatever you, the advisory board, can do, we'd appreciate your help at Westside High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Next speaker.
Belinda McGuire.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. My name's Belinda McGuire. I live currently in Piscataway. I'm a teacher at Westside High School. I have been a resident of Newark all of my life. My kids live here. My grandkids go to school here in the public schools, and so did I. Cleveland Elementary, West Kenny Junior High, and Villsburg High School. And I've been teaching here for 32 years. And I want to come before you just to let you know that I would like your support in the effort that I'm making to open the Fashion High School. The New Jersey Institute of Fashion Charter High School is the school that I am proposing to open, and January 15th I will hear from the state as far as acceptance of the charter. I am teaching fashion careers currently at Westside High School, and my students are doing very well. However, it's a ceiling. There's too many things that layer above to keep them from really soaring like I know they can't do. And so I'm hoping that that this board will give me some support in what I'm trying to do, because it is for the students of this district. And also, I have to speak of Ronald myself, because Ronald was one of my models. I taught him how to model when he was in the 9th grade. He always wanted to be in our fashion show, because we had a fashion show at the end of every year. It was a presentation, because all the garments in the show were made by the students in class. And Ronald was one of my, he just became a really good model. And he always said, "Miss McGuire, let me know when the fashion show practice start." And I would talk to his father, let him know he was at practice and what time practice was going to be over, because his father was very vigilant when it came to where he was and what he was doing. And so when I got the news Sunday night, I had students text messaging me, telling me about what was going on. I was really upset. I'm still upset, and everybody looks at me and they say, "You look like you're tired," but it's a little more than just being tired. And I just want to see something better for these kids. And I hope you'll support me.
Thank you, Ms. McGuire. I think, as the board said earlier when we heard from Principal Davis, obviously the board, we're here to do everything and anything we can do for the family. I think it's important for the entire community to do anything and everything we can do for that family. And I think part of that can begin with showing up at the viewing as this young man goes home, because even when people may not say anything verbally, sometimes it can help to uplift folks just to see people there, to express support, to express love. And the principal gave us information that the viewing for this young man is Monday, December 27th, from 10 to 11, at the Zion Holy Church, 103 Camden Street, here in Newark. Funeral at 11 o'clock. And I think it's important for the entire community to stand up and express our love for this young man. And obviously we know that he's one of many that we lose entirely too early. So we're here, Ms. McGuire, to do everything we can to support the West Side community. This is what we communicated, earlier to the principal. And in terms of your charter application, if you can share your charter application with Martha, we can share that with the board, and based upon that, board members can decide, what sort of support folks want to provide. Ms. White?
I'm sorry, what was the address for the?
103 Camden Street, the Zion Holy Church, Monday, December 27th, viewing from 10 to 11, funeral at 11. Again, that's the Zion Holy Church, 103 Camden Street, on Monday. Thank you. Next speaker.
Daniqua Matas.
Daniqua. Okay, next speaker.
Lucius Jones.
Next speaker.
Valeria Quinones.
Good evening, board members. My name is Valerie Quinones. I live in the West Ward. I don't have too much to say, but I got enough to say. Like when we have advisory board meetings, I would like for the advisory board to vote on keeping our babies home K through 6, because we have long board meetings. If you could bring it before the floor to vote, not to have where parents be using their babies from K through 6. I can see 7th or 8th graders because they're getting prepared in later years for high school. But bringing the babies here K through 6, don't use those babies for the benefit of parents' needs when they can't say things. Now, if you could let me know if you could do that.
Let me make sure I understand, Ms. Quinones, what you said.
Okay, kids that's in kindergarten or 1st grade up to the 6th grade, they shouldn't be allowed to come to the advisory board meeting to speak, because a lot of parents be using their kids for the benefit of their voice to talk. And like some of the kids can't read what's on the paper, they memorize. There's another thing. Talk about kids, profanity in the school. It may be in the school and it's in the home too, because some of the kids I know that use profanity, not only the kids, their parents, grandparents, because in my neighborhood, I live in the West Ward, and I have walked down a certain street when these children had called me an old gray-headed bee, and including the father had called me an old witch, and I called him something back. And I called the grandmother. So I'm telling you, don't let them use the kids. Kids should be home, doing their homework, going to bed, get up fresh for the next day. So could you let me know if you could put that on your agenda?
Ms. Quinones, if other board members want to pursue that, I personally don't feel it's my role to tell parents what they should do with their kids.
No. What I'm saying, our babies from 1st grade to the 6th grade shouldn't be allowed to come to speak at the microphone when they can't even read what's on the paper. They got to memorize.
That's okay.
Well, we respect, your perspective. I mean, if other board members want to pursue that, they can feel free. I personally, again,
Quite
feel
a
it's
few
my
times
job
we've
to-
been here, we got out late. I get tired, but I still come. I can see the kids in the 7th or 8th grade coming. But when you're using kids from the kindergarten to 5th grade or the 1st grade to the 5th, no. I don't think that's right.
All right, thank you, Ms. Quinones. Thank you very much for your, excuse me, thank you very much for your perspective. Next speaker.
Deanna Quamina.
Diana Quamina, State of New Jersey. I still have not received a copy of that letter that y'all individuals claim that you sent out, and I'm still waiting on that copy. And as for the curse words,
which letter are you referring to?
excuse me?
Which letter, Ms. Kwame, are you referring to?
Which letter was you supposed to send to Trenton on behalf of Dr. Janey?
I can't hear.
Okay.
I'm here to talk about these curse words, which there's no such thing as curse word, and many of you educators should know that. Dumb, stupid, it's okay for the teachers to call the children, and the kids turn around and call a teacher a bitch. What's the difference? There's no difference. They all have a meaning to them. Educate our children on knowing what the meaning of each and every one of these words are, and you can stop calling them curse words. No such thing. These words are not even offensive, only if you allow these words to be offensive to you. Now, as I go and I look through the dictionary, I find all of these words in the dictionary, but they have a meaning to them. It's time to educate our children, get some dictionaries in these classrooms, and start teaching our children about motherfucker, bitch, shit, because they all in the dictionary and they have a meaning to it, and they are not curse words.
Ms. Kwamina, please, can we need to maintain a certain decorum. Can we please
I'm
be
just
careful?
telling you what's in the dictionary, so they're not curse words, okay? Get the dictionary, start looking up these words, learn the meaning to these words, because the way that you individuals are teaching our children about these
Ms.
words
Kwamina, we have
is
young
unacceptable.
Yeah,
Stop interrupting me, please, okay? Give me my 3 minutes.
I'm not
After
gonna-
I get finished, then you talk.
Ms. Kwamina, when I
State
interrupt,
District
please hold the record. We don't want to take any of her time. We're not going to take any of your time. I just want to say, Ms. Kwamina, and when I'm speaking, we will not take 1 second of your time. We do have some young people in here. Could you please keep that in mind as you make your remarks, please? Continue.
This is to educate our children, whether you like it or not. They have a meaning to them. Look it up and get the correct meaning and teach our children, and stop telling them that these are curse words. There is no such thing as a curse word. The state district superintendent has a clear vision for the district. Some do not want changes, therefore they try to create problems with no solutions. Afraid of goals, objectives, effective communication for the needs and the accomplishments. Monitoring, evaluating performance, good listener, making the best decisions for our schools, collaborating with efforts rather than confrontation approaches. Dr. Janey, top focus priority is to improve the students' achievement and to set goals. Why is it that you individuals want to allow this into the schools? You want changes, let's have changes. Stop living in the decades of wanting to keep the old school, the old way. We want things our way, we don't want changes. Well, I'm tired of your way. I want changes. Dr. Janey, continue what you're doing, and please send a copy of this to Christopher Christie, as well as to the trustees, because it seems like our board members don't want to do their job.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Kwamina. Next speaker.
Donald Jackson.
Donald Jackson, 79 Tracy Avenue, Newark, New Jersey, 07108. Just before the time starts, I'm sure it started already, I just want to relay a message to the Newark citizens who, when they leave here, they would return to their homes to be extra cautious. Today there has been numerous shootings and over 15 carjackings within a 12-hour span, and it's starting to get real dangerous. For those who have to leave our city and go to other cities throughout the state, be cautious as well. Crime is up there too. For one, to talk about local control, we have to be very cautious. I know everybody wants local control, but personally, I will fight against it. Right at this moment, Newark Public Schools and this city does not need local control. We do not need to turn this into a private charter. I'll build my high school, you build your charter school. Don't get me wrong, it might be some good ones, but those who have the power to do so won't create the good ones. They'll just use the money for personal gain and yet again leave our children of Newark hanging in the balance. Murders. We've had a young man this weekend from Westside High School gunned down. We had another high school student, if I'm not mistaken, from Weekway High School gunned down. And the violence against our young youth, high school children, middle school children, elementary school children are escalating. Despite personal opinion and despite what those may think of the board and whatever been said about the board, it is now time for this board to stand up. Whatever hinders you from speaking out loudly against these actions throughout this city, you need to put them aside, and you need to realize that the children of Newark are hurting. All of this going on, parents losing their jobs, who've worked for the city for 20 years, who worked for the school board for 25 years, losing their jobs, unemployed, have to return to this city, get carjacked, get robbed. This is creating a melee of stress on our children as well as the adults. This board, I'm sure, since you all claim to be Newark residents, you know what I'm talking about. It is getting out of hand, and this board needs to step up. When I can't think of your name right now because my brain is going through a lot of thoughts. When she came up, Ms. Robinson came up and talked about that student, all I heard was a thank you, next speaker. Now, you did say the funeral arrangements and you did speak out a little bit, but we now have to take the approach of the problem.
That was Mr. Jackson. Martha is very buttoned up. She's saying that's 3 minutes. Thank you very much. I do want to say too, I don't know if you were here earlier, Mr. Jackson, but Principal Davis from Westside talked about the situation there with the young man. We had an extended exchange with the board. We expressed our commitment to doing everything we can for that young man. So we had an extended engagement on that. I don't know if you were here at that point. And also want to say, in terms of the funding, it's very important to know when folks talk about the board standing up, only a handful of districts in the state of New Jersey dared to challenge Governor Christie in litigation about the cuts he made to our budget. The Newark board is one of those districts, and the reason the Newark board is one of those districts is because of the leadership of this board. And it's also important for people to know that case will be argued January 4th. It is going to be important, I think, for the community's voice to be heard in conjunction with that. Mr. Lewis? Mr. Lewis?
I also want to comment on Mr. Jackson being the point person to school safety for this board. That this morning we had a meeting with the mayor, and I expressed the concerns about Newark Public Schools and security and our Newark Police Department working together to come up with a correct school safety plan to make sure that make sure our children are safe from school on their way homes, from home on their way to school, because we know where the problems are happening. We just have to be truthful and point them out and tell where the problems are happening and come up with a safety strategy that makes sure our children are safe. We know, and we know in the South Ward, we know that when you're coming from Shabazz High School, most of the kids wait until they go up to Jelliff by Belmont Runyon, and that's when they break out and have fights, which also put our elementary children at risk. We know over at Weekway High School, the kids don't fight from the Weekway High School. They go on that SAB block on Clinton Avenue, and Clinton Place, and they fight over there by the little Chancellor Avenue School. We know West Side kids go down the street by South 9th Street and they fight down there. So we just have to put together a safety plan to make sure our children are safe. I believe that this board is going to work closely with me and make sure that we work with the police department. Despite the cuts that they may have had, our children are priority, and they need to make sure our children are safe. And I'm on the call to make sure that they handle their responsibility along with our security detail in North Public Schools.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Next speaker.
Alicia Sly. Alicia Sly.
Next speaker.
Veronica Williamson.
Next speaker.
Donna Jackson.
Good evening. Haven't seen you guys in a while, but I guess it's OK Corral outside, and we better do something. For all the incidents that you know about and don't know about, okay, there was a stabbing at Barringer, and you better do something. I'm tired of people covering up reports that's coming down here. I'm telling you, there was a stabbing at Barringer, and if the staff continues to say it didn't happen, I'll be over there with the news and I'll give the report. Don't worry about nobody at Barringer giving it. Donna gonna do it. And I already know what my street cred is. 90% of what I'm saying is verified in the community. It's out of control everywhere. Shabazz is out of control. Barringer is out of control. Out of control. We suspending kids, leaving kids outside for not having a uniform on. But when they go cuss at Miss Brown, Miss Green, Miss Jackson, and Miss Auburn, nothing is done to them. And this is across the board. This is not just at one school. This is not just on the north side of town, south side of town. This is across the board. These administrators are not writing up incidents. These teachers are not writing up these reports. Ms. White, you and I fought too long to get that discipline policy together. Although I do not agree with 70% of it, it's in place. And the problem is nobody's following any of it. There are no parent forms going home. There is no parent right to waive, not agree, whatever. I forget what we even called it. Thank you. See, that's so smart people in this audience. There's no parent appeal process, no parent appeal form going home, no student appeal form going home, no student incident reports being written up at 90% of our schools. Now, there's about 2 schools that's doing it right. The rest of them are not. The other thing we need to discuss, board members, is I know you're all charter school proponents, but we need to really stop allowing these charter schools to dump their kids back into Newark Public Schools after October the 15th with no retribution. Because when they come back, they're coming back with no money. Let's compare report card to report card. Let's throw the test scores out the window. How about Donna Jackson got summer job applications and go to the charter schools and the public schools? How about the kids at the charter school can't get summer job applications either because they don't have a C average? Duh. So now while we want to dump all of this that the public schools are not working, you guys need to really look underneath the surface and see what's going on. Because Team Cory Booker, which unfortunately most of you have joined, is here to destroy what is going on. And although we got a lot of failures and we got a lot of discipline problems, we got a whole lot of good people out there though making it happen. We still got teachers who take kids' clothes home to wash. That's why they didn't have a white shirt on with the khaki pants before you throw them out. So that email needs to go out in my conclusion to the administrators. Stop picking on these kids so they don't got to wash and dry at home, and you take it home and wash them for them if you want them in uniform every day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. One issue I do want to raise, because I think it's a very important informational point, is because Ms. Jackson raised a very important issue in terms of kids who leave charters, come back to the district not being reimbursed, but providing services to that kid. That's a very legitimate issue, and I know we're working on this. This may be is not a guarantee from the state, but this may be something that we can work out. But Ms. Wilson, can you say a few words on that?
With regards to that, Mr. Jeffries,
In past years, charters were allowed to return students, but the funding was not returned to the district. For the 10-11 school year, the state, we have no control over this, and we cannot impact this. The state has determined that there will be an adjustment sometime during the year with regards to charter school enrollments, and it will be looked at with regards to whether funds will be returned to the district. Don't clap just yet, Ms. Jackson. What we should also realize is that that enrollment can be modified upwards, which means if there are additional enrollments in the charter, districts will be required to pay that money at that point in time, which may not be money we budgeted for. So it could be an upwards or a downwards adjustment.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker. Thank you very much.
Madeline Goldfarb.
I love you.
Thank you, Chairman, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the Advisory Board. I actually bring you greetings and salutations from the Autism Center at New Jersey Medical School. And I wanted to introduce a new program, and I want to ask if I could get this program put up on your website. It's called Mom to Mom, and it's a peer support helpline for mothers who have kids with developmental or other special needs. And the line is actually now live, up and running, and I have flyers up in the front for you. And the number actually is 877-914-MOM2, and it is 24/7, and it really is the first helpline that is looking at the special needs kids and their moms and trying to offer that help and support that really has been the missing link. And I also wanted to remind you guys, hearing about the tragedy that happened in Newark, that there also is, run on the same platform, a teacher-to-teacher helpline, and that is 866-AID-AID-NJEA. And it's funded through the NJEA, but it's also run through our Behavioral Health Care Center, and that is up and running 24/7 for teachers that may also be, going through burdens and stress. So we have a number of different helplines. This one is brand new, and it really is, for the community, for moms who are dealing with special needs children who may be feeling stressed out. And again, a 24/7 line. So there are 4 helplines available. There's a cop-to-cop, a vet-to-vet, a teacher-to-teacher, and now a brand new mom-to-mom. And I just wanted to let you know about this as a resource in the community. So thank you very much.
Okay, please, we do need quiet in the back so we can hear from the other speakers who have things to share too, please. So could we please have quiet? Thank you very much, Ms. Goldfarb. Mr. Lewis?
Ms. Goldfarb.
Cassandra, please, we can't hear, please.
Ms.
Mr. Lewis.
Goldfarb, being the chair of special education and also having a mother with a disabled child, I would like to sit down with you, have a meeting just to hear what you have to say concerning special education and mothers with disabled children.
Please.
I would certainly welcome that and appreciate that.
Can you just give your information to Mr. Rowe, please?
I certainly will.
Next speaker, Cassandra, please. We can't even hear from the other speakers, Cassandra, please. Please. Next speaker.
Excuse me.
Next speaker, please, Cassandra,
Excuse me.
please. 'Cause you're
Belinda
disruptive.
Jackson.
We can't hear from other folks right now.
Good evening, Dr. Janey, board members, and I'm glad to hear that Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry, I go right to the student-teacher thing, is the liaison for special ed in reference to the board, because I am the Newark Public Schools teacher child study team representative, newly elected in November. First, I would like to make sure that I know that you changed the policy so everyone can speak, and I submitted my application to speak this evening. But I am responding to building committee issues that are addressing special ed throughout the district. Possibly 3 minutes may not be enough time. And I also think contractually, there may be something in our contract that allows us to speak longer. I'm not quite sure, but I believe I looked that up.
No, Ms.
No one,
sure?
no one, everyone has the same right to speak. We will make accommodations, and I think Mr. Roper raised this earlier. We will make accommodations with folks with certain kind of disabilities that affect their ability to speak, but the point of the equal time was so everybody's,
No, I don't have
everyone's
a-
voice is respected to the
I
same.
don't have a problem with equal time, but I think I saw it in there. But we'll talk later. I'll fax it if I see it.
Okay.
But I want to talk about the fact that there's the programs that Newark Public Schools do not have for special ed kids. And so since I'm limited to 3 minutes today, I just want to bring to your attention as a former board member in another district, I understand that you don't always get the information. They talked about the charter schools. I think that, and I know that it's not your responsibility to authorize charter schools, but when you get a chance to speak to the governor, just like public schools, sometimes we can have a population up to 1/3 of our students, special ed students at schools like Westside High School. The charter schools should be responsible for maintaining a program for special ed students, at least 10% of their population. If they're going to be the bullet that saves us all or the surgeon that heals us all, they need to take on full responsibility for all the students that are represented in our community. Also, we need to pay attention to a couple of comprehensive high schools, especially the SIG schools who are now going to full inclusion programs and forcing kids who need special programs like the learning disability program. They are eliminating them in their buildings, and yet the IEP has mandated that they have these programs. The impact of closing those 25 schools, I just want to say to you, I don't know what that impact is going to look like, but if it looks like anything that AVC looked like, when these kids have not been placed in the proper program, they're going to the comprehensive high schools, the cognitively impaired students, some with 41 IQs, are sitting in classrooms and not getting what their needs are. They're not getting the supermarket program at Westside, the behavior children who need to have classrooms only half a day, and perhaps activities to help alleviate some of their frustrations in the classrooms are coming from small programs in middle schools to huge comprehensive classrooms, and they're not making the adjustment. And then that translates into behavior and discipline problems in the building, which reflects on what's happening in the classroom and reflects on what's happening with principals having to make the choice between suspension or continuing the behavior. When it comes across the table, hopefully some of these programs that come across the table, Eastside High School is testing out behavior.
Thank you.
Please look at these programs, and I just want you to know I'm going to have more than 3 minutes if you want to.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Jackson, let me say this, that is important, I think, for you and many members of the public to understand. These public meetings is just one very small way in which we get information. So you in your role, Mr. Lewis, is in charge of the board's special education subcommittee along with the chair of the curriculum committee, Nakia White. If there are issues that you for some reason can't raise in your role as a child study team member through the appropriate channels with the district, we're here. You know, we're here. You know, our information is available. You don't need to wait to the meeting. This is fine too, but we're here all the time. So you can reach out to us. You can reach out to Mr. Lewis, have conversations with him for more than 3 minutes, as much time as you need to make sure these issues get addressed. Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Chair, knowing Ms. Jackson when I was in school, she's a sharp sister. And I know anything that she say is real, is to the point, it's been researched, and it's something we have to deal with in our community. So I will love to sit down with her and inform the board on, you know, the issues that she have. But I also think that if she got some valid information, I believe maybe in our business meeting the next month, she should be one of the presenters before the board and present her information on special needs. Reason why is because I know at Barringer, now I didn't talk to anyone about this, but I know at Barringer, a few of the children that was involved in the mini riot was some of the AVC children. And I know the community was truly concerned about putting ABC students in a regular populated classroom, and because of reasons like this. So I believe that we need to look into this deeply. We need to take it serious. It's nothing to joke around with. But I think that we need to, after looking at the report of the placement of the ABC children and where he was placed at, I think that we need to re-look over that list, because I was not satisfied by looking at that list, and I don't think that any board member would be satisfied after looking at that list of where these children were placed, because of what I think is we put in their livelihood at risk.
Excuse me, I think Mr. Lewis, you raised legitimate issues, and I think, you know, in your role as the chair of the board's Special Education Subcommittee, it would be wise to work with Dr. Janey, Dr. Marinaro, others, to make sure these issues are addressed, and then after they've been vetted, to report back out. These are very legitimate issues. These are obviously not the kind of issues we can really address in this forum, but I think it would make very much sense for you, Ms. Jackson, if it makes sense for her, working through her channels within the district, for us at the board level to work with the superintendent and the district to make sure these issues are addressed. So we appreciate your leadership, Mr. Lewis, in terms of that. Ms. Jackson was our last speaker. So we will now move into any old. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, come on up. We didn't see that Mr. Jones joined us.
We're going to make an exception.
Yeah, we'll make an exception this time. Normally, if you miss your opportunity, we wouldn't do this, but since I already brought Mr. Jones forward, we're not going to send him back. So thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak. It's been a very, very difficult day. New driver, and I'm from out of town who really is not experienced with Newark. The point, I have to do a personal apology. At the last meeting, I performed poorly as it relates to a staff member. Ms. Wilson, she had a daughter here, and since I acted out of disrespect at the last meeting publicly, I apologize publicly. It is not my intentions to hurt or harm anyone. I love the district employees, I love the students, I love the Newark Public Schools. That's why I put forth the effort that I do to try to increase student achievement, because your success is my success. I'd like to also add through the chair that, you know, I have some serious concerns regarding the Academy of Vocational Careers closing. I realize that the administration's best interest was in mind. They wanted to do what they felt was best for kids. And Dr. Janey and I have had that conversation many times. And, you know, the conversation we had in his office was, you know, Lucius, are you going to join me under the tent? Okay, the school has been closed. Now it's time to do what's best for kids. What's happened to those kids from ABC? We're getting constant reports that they're dropping out one after the other. We're getting constant reports that while they're dropping out, crime is increasing on the street. These kids, our kids, are getting guns. They're buying them like they're buying lollipops. And they are, these youngsters are very easily manipulated. The other issue is that they're older kids. A lot of the older kids, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old students are getting involved in these type of situations. We have a young man that just was shot by a Newark police officer when he pointed a loaded .40 caliber pistol at him, and the officer turned around and shot the kid dead, 16 years old. We have to do more to protect the kids. I admit that sometimes I come up to the mic and I behave poorly. But I would also indicate that it's in the best interest of kids, and I think that, Dr. Janey, if regardless of what the governor said, I think that you tried. I also believe that the community has to say thank you for your best effort, and I say thank you. But I humbly say that we have to look into what's happening to kids. And as far as Barbara Gantworth is concerned, the commissioner, assistant commissioner, she has to be held accountable too. She has a monitoring capacity, and that will be talked about at the state board meeting, that she has to come in here and do her part You know, so I wish the board and the administration a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Feliz La Di Da, and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Well, on that very positive note, and we also would like to say too, Dr. Janey commits that our January board meeting having a report out on the kids who were at AVC, where they are now. Are they still in school? Have there been any dropouts? Have there been mobility to multiple schools, so that we can get information to the people about that. Is there any old business or new business any board member wants to discuss? Mr. Lamort?
I do want to mention something.
Okay. That already, Ms. White? Ms. Lord's legitimate.
I do want to commend Lucius Jones for standing up and saying, hey, I said something wrong and I'm going to apologize publicly for it. So I do commend you, Mr. Jones, for being a man that has shown this evening integrity and humility, especially towards one of our staff members, Ms. Wilson. So thank you so much and have a happy holiday.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. White. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Lamort?
In light of the tragedy that happened at Westside, and it's interesting, when we first started, we were watching both of those young men. I'm looking at the truancy task force report, and I'm looking at 214 boys that were truant. That number continues to rise, as the number for girls is 134. We have to start to figure out the reasons why, what's going on behind those truancies. And I'm just not sure if because of budget cuts that's not happening, but as we see these numbers rise, and we look at some of the other schools where there are no truancies, or where kids aren't, where kids are going to school. So I'd like us to look into that issue, please.
Yeah, Dr. Janey?
Yeah, truancy is only a symptom of bigger issues that are social and go well beyond the school. But at our last board meeting, I reported that there's no longer a truancy task force as we had one before. The police officers who were part of the truancy task force have been pulled off of that assignment. We've made a request to get them reinstated. We have not heard anything yet. We were picking up roughly 25 to 30 students per day citywide. This is not only an issue of helping students to reconstruct their lives, but also preventing issues from happening once they're not in school. So I think I would urge the board to send a letter along with the school district administration to Director McCarthy and copy the mayor for reinstatement of this vital service that's no longer afforded to us. They used to ride in the vehicles with our staff members, as some of you may know. That no longer happens, and it hasn't been happening for well over a month before the 167-person police officer layoff.
Mr. Lewis?
I just have a few issues that I just wanted to raise tonight. One being, I'm gonna start backwards and work my way up on my list. One, I think to enlighten the community and show them that we care about what's going on in our community as far as the violence. I remember 2006 when I was a student at Arts High School. I came before the board and I convinced the superintendent, Dan Marion Bolden, to sponsor an anti-violence march with me. It was North Public Schools and myself. We sponsored an anti-violence march. It was on a Saturday, and we marched down Broad Street with all the kids. And North Public Schools made signs to stop the violence, even our children. I think that's something that we make a look into, just to show our community that we are concerned about the violence that is affecting our children and our community, because basically violence affects them mentally when they come in our classrooms. So I would like to propose that to the board, that may be something that we want to look into, have a North Public School anti-violence march, just to show the community that we stand behind them 100%. Special education, Parents been calling me about special education, the staff in our special education department not being, having the knowledge of what services they provide and what services they don't provide. I think that I would like to request a list of what services our special education department do provide to our students in North Public Schools, just for my own knowledge, so I can refer it back to the community throughout these town hall meetings that we've been hosting throughout the city. I also wanted to just a PSA to the community. I want you to know that this should not fall on deaf ears. Mayor Baraka, the naming ceremony, we're consulting the communications department, again, our communications director, Valerie Wilson, along with Michelle Baldwin. Valerie Merritt, and along with Michelle Baldwin, we have decided to push the naming ceremony to February because Mr. Baraka is such a known individual across this country, to make it a Black History event for North Public Schools, so that he could get the recognition that he deserves, and we could properly promote his naming ceremony. Also, I would like to request that this year's, I requested it before, but I want to request again, that there's no way I will vote for a budget unless we are able to go throughout the community and present the budget to the community. That's the only way that I would see myself voting for a budget, if we are able to go through ward to ward and have a community hearing on what is our budget, what do our budget look like, what are we cutting, and we could go through the particulars, because I don't want this budget to be like last year. You know, we voted on it and there's some stuff we wasn't clear about and we had concerns. So I would like that to also be part of our to-do list. Thank you, happy holidays,
Thank you.
And Merry, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. These are all great ideas that you have, and we appreciate your leadership, on those areas. Any additional old items, new items anyone wants to raise? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Happy holidays, everyone. Have a blessed holiday season.
Have a safe holiday.